All right, welcome back to our channel, our Year of Magical Learning podcast, short for YOML. And we are on episode 88 today. I took a peek at the questions and I think I might like the question. So maybe let's Chris start off his reflection and we can talk about it.
Yeah, I was just telling you before we started this. This is a meandering one,
Okay.
it's about balance, the reflection overall is about balance. But the book today, book 88, is a book called Rain, A Natural and Cultural History by Cynthia Barnett. Yes, I read a book about rain. And actually, it's funny because I started off the book is about what you think it's about. It's about a natural and cultural history of rain. It's about the importance that rain plays in a balanced ecosystem.
Mhm.
And then also, just the importance of rain plays in our world. I mean, I never really knew that, I know rain's important, but like I just had no idea, honestly, until, after going through this book, like just how important rain, lack of rain, too much rain, it's like the perfect
Mhm.
balance of rain, like has driven a lot of the course of human history of like where we live and where we don't live, and then also there's a lot of cultural history around rain. It went into things about like raincoats and other stuff, and like the businesses that build
So it's all things rain.
all things rain. I'm just a weird person, I guess. For some weird reason, this book piqued my interest when I decided to start it. But, I'm glad I read it. But it was an interesting journey for sure. I don't know that I directly learned anything in particular that really stood out to me to apply to my life, other than this more macro reflection around. I'll share my screen here. It's called,
Mhm.
I titled it Too Much and Not Enough,
Right.
so it's more of an homage to balance. So I kicked off this reflection talking about similar to what we were just talking about. Like, I can't even believe that I'm reading a book about rain. I mean, I love this journey that we're on, right? If you would have told me 10 years ago that I'd be reading a book about rain, writing a reflection about it for your magical learning project, and you know, doing a podcast recording with you now, whatever else this turns into, I would have been like, you're crazy. Like there's just no way in hell that you could have ever convinced me that this was a path. I'm talking to some guy named True who lives in another state, like we're talking about rain, and how, I mean, it's just like there's just no way. But for me personally, obviously, as we all know through this journey, losing Amelia really changed everything, and now here we are, right? So I think that the biggest lesson that I've learned, and we talk about this all the time, is like I don't know anything. I have no idea, like and I've stopped trying to figure it out. Like I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why we're talking about this today. I don't know why rain ever came into this orbit, and we're having a conversation, but here we are. We don't control this thing, and life's really hard to predict. And I've stopped trying. Honestly, I've given up on it. What I try to focus on. Oh, sorry. What this whole book made me think about is like, wow, I don't know shit, and you don't know anything. Who does know something is this lady named Mother Nature, right? For billions of years, she's honed this perfect balance of, when to deploy what resources where, and to make sure that everything stays in this harmonious state, and it's kind of a sight to behold, honestly. I mean, when you really think about all the little checks and balances that go on that we don't ever see every single day, that we might get a little bit off balance every once in a while, but there's always some way that she reins it all back in, whether it's pulling rain away from one region and sending it to another, global warming, climate patterns change, whatever it is, she knows how to just push the right buttons at the right time, to slowly make those changes and course correct. Unfortunately for us dumb humans, we always think that we know more than Mother Nature. And I feel like on this journey that maybe our purpose is to push Mother Nature's buttons a little bit, because we're the composers, the creators, and we just can't stop ourselves from always trying to invent some new way to mess with her and to mess with this world and to try to build something up. And maybe that's like our purpose, is to help her hone in her secret ingredient balance, to keep this whole thing in order and to test the limits. But either way, my particular goal in life these days, while I have no idea how I got here, my personal goal is to try to take the elements of both that I enjoy most: our creativity from our humanity side of everything, our ability to endure, our ability to change and adapt. And then at the same time, learn from nature as well, right? Have humility, understand that there's a whole lot of other dynamics that are going on outside of this whole entire thing, and to try to find a balanced center, where you're never too much, not enough, where you're ever in a drought or you're ever in some monsoon and flooded. So that's how I'm trying to live my life these days. And that's why balance is so important for me. And I have a feeling you have a similar sentiment, because I know that this is important for you as well. But yeah, that was the random reflection that rain made me think about after I read this book. So the question that I asked at the end was, what areas of your life can you stop trying to control and start accepting nature a little bit more? Because we have that fatal flaw where we feel like we can control everything. I'd love to get your thoughts.
So I guess I can go with another random thoughts. From hearing you saying all these things about, we're trying to test Mother Nature and put some limits. The thing that comes to my, come to my head is that, I think we don't know shit and we're too dumb. We're just trying dumb stuff. I don't think we're meant to do any of the things that we are. I just think we are too dumb to know any better, and we just do things.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't mesh with Mother Nature, and you find out the hard way. And I think, it's a random thought. Yeah. But I think that's how I see life. Life is essentially, you have to know what the question say, what areas of life you can stop trying to control and start accepting nature. It's just because certain things you don't get to control. I think a lot of things you don't get to control.
I don't know that there's anything you get to control other than your values. That's the only thing that we've ever really.
The only thing you can control is the space between, what was it? The
stimulus and response.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's the only thing we can control in some capacity. Other than that, we can't control anything. We can't control the genes we got, and the genes we got make us who we are. Is a beaver must dam, right? If you are made into a beaver, you're gonna want to make a dam regardless of how you are born. You just can't say, hey, I want to be a wolf today. You can't do that, right? And if you're a writer,
well, these days I don't know that that's not true. I feel like sometimes our
but nature is gonna smack you in the face, and they say, no, you're a beaver, go damn.
Exactly. Right.
You are identity confused.
Correct. I could walk around saying I'm a panda bear today, and try to live like a panda bear, but I have a weird feeling that it'll turn out bad for me eventually.
Exactly. So like I said, you can't control it. You just have to accept. To be the most harmonious, you have to accept who you are, right? And I think it begins with exploring yourself and what your values are and your identity, right? And accept that identity in order for you to maximize the time and the things you do to make it the most enjoyable as possible. If you're a beaver and you're trying to be a wolf, or you're trying to be some other animals, for example, you're trying to fly, right? It's going to be miserable. You're not going to be even able to have even a small percentage success of trying to fly like an eagle. It's just not, it's just so difficult for you. So you're going to be miserable all the time. But if you start to build a dam, hey, I have this waterproof coat or whatever, and I can swim and I can paddle and I can do things much, much better, and I can enjoy the work that I do. And so at the end of the day, is you have to accept nature and try not to control anything. And the thing is, we're gonna have to also think about like looking at the balance, right? To me, this book kind of like resembles what we mean when we say balance, right? Because too much is not good, and too little is not good either. So just imagine rain, right? What happens when you have so much rain? It's going to turn to flood, and nothing will grow. It'll wash everything away, right? Nothing can thrive in too much rain. On the opposite hand, if you have no rain or little rain, then you have not enough water for the vegetation to grow. Balance is important. And anyone who said balance is, it's bullshit. It's doesn't see it. Think about it. It's just about, where do you fit in that matches your nature. And nature means what you've been given. And just like I say, your genetic makeup, your combinations and pattern, they make you who you are. And you have to know what you have for you to find the right place in line, in a chain, in whatever ecosystem that you want to be. You have to say, well, I'm this person, therefore I'm best fitted at this place, at this location. And if you don't, then you're going to have a miserable time. You're going to have a miserable existence. And if that's what you want, that's fine. But I doubt that's what you wanted.
I think this goes back to my original thought of all this stuff. And it's so important to always remind yourself that you don't really know anything. I know it sounds so annoying and pretentious to be like, look, I don't know anything. But here's a thought. It would annoy me to hear me say that I don't know anything as many times as I say it. But the truth is, I do this to remind myself that we're on this awesome journey together, and we feel like we're making some sort of a progress towards somewhere, but honestly, we have no idea. And I don't know.
Right. The thing is, no one knows the right answer. No one knows what exactly it is or what we're saying, but everybody has an opinion. And an opinion cannot be wrong.
Right.
That by nature, opinion is say, hey, that's what I think.
Sure. Are you wrong? Yes, you're wrong. Like, I mean, like,
But it's
I mean, if you
opinion.
feel like you're right, right.
Opinion says like there's not a factual evidence that everybody has to abide by. It say, hey, this is what I see, whether I see it right or wrong, it's still my opinion. By nature of the definition of opinion,
Right.
means that it is unique, right? You say, hey, that's what I see, that's what I think, and that's how I understand it. And so an opinion, everybody has one, which is fine. I mean, that's why we don't know. We want to admit that we don't know, but we also have our opinion. Meaning opinion is up to this point, up to what I know as far as what information I have. This is what I think, right? This is what my brain is telling me. I don't know if my brain is even calculating correctly or not, or even I'm seeing the whole picture. It doesn't matter. But the fact that I'm setting my opinion, that means that what I see, right? Whether you see the same picture or not, that is to be explored. That is to be discussed. Hey, I see this. Why you see something different? I want to get a glimpse of what you see. And to me, that's the nature of an opinion. And I think that's fine. You want to have that. You don't want to have a person that has the same thinking as you do. It's boring. Because I thought of that. There's no need to talk to you.
Agreed. I feel like an idea of what our purpose is, but I do feel like it's to just keep trying shit and testing stuff out and figure it out. Like you said, we don't know what we're doing and we're just doing stuff. Who knows? Maybe we make just a tiny little step forward in the evolution of humanity toward general knowledge or whatever that we can help better.
We basically explore all the options that's possible, right? The option that is going to move humanity forward and thrive will actually continue. The one that doesn't, we either stop or we die off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Just imagine you have a tribe and you send everybody in every directions, right? If the one that hits the desert can't survive, they're gonna die off. Then there's no settlement over there, right? But the one that goes into the rainforest and they thrive because that's what is fitted for them, for the conditions of how they can thrive, then that's going to grow, and that's where the concentrations of all the population is going to be. I mean, it's just that every human's going to have their own exploration DNA where they're going to try things. Well, some of them, most of them, maybe going to be stupid, but some of them is going to be, very genius, very creative. And that's what makes humanity survive, because, the 1.001% that actually stumble upon something really wonderful that makes humanity what humanity is today. Right. Exactly. And so like I said, we need to obey the laws of nature. Laws of nature is there because it's the system or ecosystem of randomness, right? And we personify nature, but Mother Nature doesn't really care about us. When Mother Nature doesn't really say, hey, I need to save this person, I'm gonna send rain to this area. I don't care. Say, hey, the wind go this direction, I'm gonna pour. And so you guys gotta move, all right? In my experience and in my opinion, obviously everything anyone says is an opinion. My opinion is Mother Nature isn't on your side.
Probably
right?
not.
I mean, you talk about heat and cold.
How could it be?
Right. And so we as a species are surviving because we are adapting, we are adjusting to it, and we are able to compensate. Let's say for the heat, right? We invented AC because
and sweating,
right? And the eyes and all that. So we adapt. That's why we survive. And human nature and Mother Nature isn't say, hey, I'm this benevolent God that's gonna save these people because they are nice and these people are evil and like that. I mean we personify, but it's not like that in real life, right? And so for us, we need to understand ourselves and understand what's our environments are, and trying to optimize where we should be in that ecosystem, in that environment, for you to enjoy the maximum joy out of the things that you do. Right. And so go back to the core of the mission of Clubberny is, you got to find your core values, find out who you are, and find the things that you do that's meaningful to you, and the balance that you have to create to maximize that and have the maximum joy and then minimize the regret and the despair of whatever lifespan that you have.
Right.
mean, the thing is, I think most people want that. I mean, majority of people, I think people want to have the maximum joy of what they do, how they exist, and what they contribute to whatever is born to them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, that's the only power you hold in this universe, right? And yeah, I mean, that's the only thing you can really do. And I mean, I think for me, my final thoughts on this would be, this is just all about perspective, right? Like, it's every single day you're going to be confronted with choices to make, decisions, and how you want to act and how you don't want to act. Sometimes the perspective ranges for me from, look, you don't know anything and tomorrow's never promised, and, you know, doom and gloom kind of thing, right? Like, to like the, you know, to Mother Nature on the other end of the spectrum, where there's like this beautiful harmony that's going on that we can't really see and understand. Like, you know, for me, it's like trying to find some way to exist in between the middle of those two things, where it's like, you know, enjoying the beauty of both ends of the spectrum and figuring out a path forward that aligns to what I care about most.
You're maximizing your existence, whatever that means to you. And that depends on perspective. And you know, we talked about this the other day, is the only perspective that matters to you is your perspective. The only perspective that matters to me is my perspective. If I'm sick and in pain, right, I'm the one is feeling the pain. You don't. Regardless, if you try to, you can't.
Right.
That's the thing, is the only perspective that's important to you is your perspective. And likewise, my perspective is important to me. And so that's why we each individually have to find out what it is that we value. It's going to be different from you and me. And some of them may overlap, but not all of them. But at the same time, if you understand yourself and you know where you should belong, chances are when you're trying to be at the place where you need to be to have the maximum impact of the effects, whether that's feelings and experience or whatever that you want to call it, whatever that you want, it's going to give you the best time in existence. If you don't, then you just don't get it, and you're just going to struggle. I mean, just imagine, you know, me trying to play basketball. It's not going to be fun for me because I'm going to get, you know, dunked on and whatnot, right?
Unless challenging yourself is one of your core values, you know, that doesn't mean you're going to be good at it, but it's a challenge.
But it's a struggle. It's a struggle. Like I said, if a beaver has the waterproof pelt, right, they're going to have an advantage in water.
Yeah.
They can do the dam very well, right? Versus, you know, maybe a fox.
Yeah. Or us, right.
So why are you trying to do things that you're not made to do? But how do you know what you're made to do until you
learn,
you know,
what's
reflect
too
upon
much and what's not enough, you know, and then
right?
Find the balance, find the center, you know, find your, I guess, happiness. I don't know.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's about finding yourself.
Right.
Right. Who are you? Who are you, Chris? Right? Who are you, True? Who are you, Mr. Beaver? Who are you, Mr. Fox? Right. And so they each have to ask themselves that question. Right. If he or she is a lion and he lives as a sheep, right, then it's going to be difficult for him. He's going to be outcast. He's going to say, hey, you know, I'm an ugly sheep. That's the way it is because the perspective doesn't fit the lens.
Yep. Paradigm's off.
Yeah.
You gotta bring it, you gotta get it back into alignment, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, take some cues from good old Mother Nature, and, you know,
so I really like the question you pose, right? What areas of life can you stop trying to control and start accepting the nature? I think the first thing is start to accept nature, right? Nature means you, everything around you, right? What you can control and what you cannot control. So I'm not saying don't do anything. I'm saying, hey, do things that you can control. You can change. You can change the environment. You can change perspective. You can change between the stimulus and response. You can decide what you want to do.
But you can't change the stimulus.
You can't change the you just can't. When people are gonna do things, right? And you know, you're gonna be pissed just because that's the way it is. It's either for you to even take in the stimulus.
Yep. Actually, I'll admit some fun stuff from yesterday really fast here. Talk about humbling, you know, after years and years of working on this stuff ever since this whole journey began. Last night, don't freak out or anything. I haven't told you this, obviously, but Luca, we had to take him to the emergency room last night at around 7:00. Everything's fine. Like, I mean, he was having some, like,
gonna freak out.
He was having some weird, like, I don't even know, like, how to describe it. It almost looked like he was having a tiny seizure a couple times. I think he has an earache, and he was trying to pop his ear, but he was freezing, and he kept doing it over and over, and it was freaking my wife out. So we called the doctor, and they were like, we should probably bring him in for an evaluation. They had like a neurologist look at him, and anyway, long story short, in that knowing my background, knowing I've lost a child, knowing that, I've spent 6 months of my life in a hospital in the past, 2.5 years of my life, I was still frustrated as hell last night. Like I was so frustrated. I was like, it's like the kid needs to go to sleep. We're just sitting in this room by ourselves. Like, nobody's here. It took us like 4 hours to get in and out of here. I was like, this is such a, like, I'm talking about perspective, right? I'm glad that he's safe and he's healthy. My wife and I are there to support him. I should have had, this is all still really hard. I was frustrated beyond belief last night. I was like, Mother Nature's effing with me right now. We got to get to bed. I got meaningful work to do in the morning. I have other things to do. The kid needs to sleep, like, health. And anyway, there's a million things that are going on in my mind, and it just made me pissed. I mean, I was just furious, and made my wife feel pretty bad about it too, because she started even calling me out of my own book that I wrote. When Amelia, when we went to the hospital the day of, I told her it was indigestion and she shouldn't worry about it, kind of thing. And that's fair. I mean, it is fair. I'm glad that he's okay, and I'm glad that we have the ability to go do these things. But it still doesn't change the fact that it got under my skin for a hot minute.
Right.
You got to take some time to reflect back on it. But to your point, this isn't easy. It's a
We've been
lifelong
for millions of years, and those are more or less the system one response. You can't get rid of it, right? But the thing is, because you have that perspective, you shorten it. Otherwise, it could be longer.
Be divorced after the way I was acting last night. Like,
yeah,
if I kept it up.
Yes.
So
the perspective is going to minimize. It's not going to get rid of it totally. I mean, because you're trying to buck, million years of conditioning and training, and so it's your automatic response. It's going to do that. So, but sometimes, the more you understand yourself, then you can lessen and minimize the impact of the things that comes to you. I mean, you can't control that. You didn't want that, but it just came. How do you deal with it? Right. And so you can't control anything other than how do you react to the input that comes your way. And like I said, you can't avoid it 100%. You just can't.
It's a lifelong struggle. I mean, that's the fun of it, right? I mean, I
don't know about the fun part.
Yeah, that's the piece of the puzzle, right? You don't know the dynamics. You don't know what you're going to get thrown into. It's always a test. It's always a challenge. Life will never let you ease up. There's never.
And you say it's fun. I can agree with that, just because we have the ability to deal with it. And so being able to deal with it makes you feel like you belong in that space, whatever you want to call it, right? Because of that, you say, hey, at least I'm able to navigate or control that at some level. Maybe I can dodge it and be agile in trying to deal with it. And that makes you say, hey, at least I have accomplished something because of the way that you've been built, right? And that could be fun in some extent, in some vocabulary. But, at the same time, it's not fun.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Like last night was not fun, but in retrospect, I can at least extract some lessons out of it and some value, and we can talk about it here. And that's the whole point of this whole journey. It's magical learning. So any other final thoughts, I guess, from your end?
No, not much. Like I said, I really like the questions. And if you can accept nature, the quicker you become more optimized and enjoying your existence.
Couldn't agree more. So thanks for everyone for tuning in. Question we can leave you all with is what areas of your life can you stop trying to control? Start accepting nature a little bit more. And I'd love to get your thoughts, and see you all tomorrow.
Yeah, and as always, if you like our podcast, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, the bells, and all that. You know how YouTube works. So with that, we'll talk to you. We will see you next time.